Why Lucy and Tim argue in The Rookie Season 8, Episode 3, The Hidden Chenford Tension Explained. There was never a version of The Rookie where Lucy Chen and Tim Bradford moved in together and everything just worked. Not after everything they've been through. Not after years of emotional buildup, power imbalances, suppressed feelings, and unresolved trauma. And Episode 3 of Season 8 quietly proves that. On the surface, the argument between Lucy and Tim looks small, almost trivial. Boxes cluttering the house, different unpacking styles, a minor domestic disagreement. But the rookie is doing something much smarter here. This episode isn't about boxes, it's about control, emotional safety, and why Tim sometimes reacts to Lucy with frustration that looks dangerously close to resentment. Let's break down what's really going on and why this tension matters more than some fans might realize. The boxes are the symptom, not the problem. When Lucy moves in, Tim's house stops being his controlled environment. And for a character like Tim Bradford, that matters more than he ever wants to admit. Tim is a man built on structure, rules, order, predictability. Lucy, on the other hand, thrives in emotional pacing. She processes things internally, on her timeline. That difference has always existed between them. It just never mattered as much until now. The boxes everywhere aren't just clutter. To Tim, they represent unfinished business, emotional limbo, a feeling that Lucy hasn't fully committed to this shared life yet. And here's the key detail. Tim doesn't say it angrily. He says it honestly. It doesn't feel like you've fully moved in while the boxes are still here. That line isn't about messiness. It's about emotional reassurance. Tim wants confirmation that Lucy is all in, not intellectually, but physically and symbolically. Lucy's still living out of boxes feels to him like one foot out the door. Why Lucy isn't wrong. Either Lucy's reaction is calm, practical, measured. She wants to unpack slowly, efficiently, thoughtfully. That's who Lucy has always been. She doesn't rush transitions because rushing has historically cost her emotional safety. And here's the hidden layer the show doesn't spell out. Lucy has survived extreme trauma, being kidnapped, buried alive, targeted repeatedly, used as leverage. Lucy learned a long time ago that safety is temporary and permanence can be dangerous. So when Tim wants everything settled immediately, Lucy subconsciously resists. Not because she doesn't love him, but because settling in fully feels like tempting fate. She doesn't say this, but her behavior says it for her. Why Tim's frustration sometimes looks like he hates Lucy. This is where some viewers get uncomfortable. There are moments in this episode where Tim's irritation feels sharper than necessary, and that's intentional. Tim doesn't hate Lucy, but sometimes he resents what she represents. Lucy forces Tim to sit with emotions he spent years suppressing. She challenges his sense of control. She exposes his fear of losing what he finally allowed himself to want. Tim isn't angry at Lucy, he's angry at the vulnerability she unlocked in him. That's why his frustration spikes over something as small as boxes, because if he admits this transition scares him, he has to admit he now has something worth losing, and that terrifies him. Why this argument is actually a sign of growth. Here's the most important part. They don't fight, they talk. Older versions of Tim Bradford would have shut down, deflected, walked away. Lucy might have internalized it and blamed herself. Instead, they communicate. Tim explains why it matters to him. Lucy explains her process, and neither invalidates the other. That's massive growth, especially for a relationship that once lived entirely in unspoken tension. Even the compromise is telling. Lucy agrees the boxes need to go, but Tim does the heavy lifting while Lucy supervises. It's playful, balanced, equal. This isn't dysfunction. It's two people learning how to share space after years of emotional distance. The tonal whiplash, Chenford versus Ezra. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. This episode jumps between light domestic tension and one of the darkest villains the rookie has introduced in years, Ezra. The tonal shift is jarring and not always in a good way. The Ezra storyline is disturbing, psychologically heavy, and deeply unsettling. Pairing that with a semi-comedic domestic dispute and a forgettable Angela Wesley anniversary subplot creates emotional whiplash. And honestly, the anniversary storyline feels like filler. It adds nothing substantial to the themes of the episode and weakens the emotional cohesion. When you're dealing with kidnapping trauma and long-term captivity, light marital hijinks feel misplaced. Ezra proves the rookie doesn't need old characters like Seth. Ezra's presence highlights something important about the show's future. The rookie is excellent at introducing compelling, one-episode villains who leave a lasting impact. Ezra is chilling, manipulative, and believable, and he never overstays his welcome. which makes the continued focus on Seth feel unnecessary. Seth's storyline doesn't deepen the main characters in meaningful ways anymore. Ezra does. Lucy's reaction to Ezra does. Tim's response to Lucy does. If the show wants to maintain emotional momentum, it needs to let go of dead weight and focus on arcs that actually challenge the core cast. What this means for Chenford going forward, episode 3 isn't warning us that Chenford is doomed. It's telling us their relationship is real now. Real relationships come with friction, with miscommunication, with moments where love collides with fear. Tim doesn't hate Lucy, he fears losing her. Lucy isn't pulling away, she's protecting herself. And that tension, that push and pull, is what makes Chenford compelling instead of idealized.